The Elves and the Shoemaker. There was once a shoemaker who was so poor that he could not afford to buy enough leather to make shoes to sell. The day came when he had only enough left to make one pair of shoes. Very carefully, he cut out the leather and left the pieces on his workbench. Then, tired and sad, he went upstairs to bed. The next morning, the shoemaker came downstairs to begin work. He was amazed to find that the leather had already been made into shoes. And they were so beautifully made that the shoemaker himself could not have done better. The poor man could not understand what had happened, but he proudly put the shoes in his window. Within an hour, a very rich customer had seen the shoes and bought them. In fact, she was so delighted with them that she insisted on paying more than the shoemaker was asking. "Now I have enough money to buy leather for 2 pairs of shoes," the shoemaker told his wife. "I will cut them out tonight, and we shall see what happens." The next morning, the shoemaker and his wife could hardly wait to creep down into the workshop. Sure enough, there on the workbench were 2 pairs of dainty shoes. "I've never seen such fine workmanship," gasped the shoemaker. Once again, he had no trouble in selling the shoes for a very handsome price. From that day onward, the shoemaker's troubles were ended. Each evening, he cut out leather to make several pretty pairs of shoes. Each morning, he found the shoes standing ready on his workbench. Soon everyone knew where the finest shoes in town were to be found, and the shoemaker's shop was busy from morning till night. One day near Christmas, as the shoemaker closed the door on his last customer, his wife said, "I've been thinking, my dear, that we should try to find out who has been helping us all this time." The shoemaker agreed. That night, instead of going to bed, he and his wife hid behind the workbench and waited to see what would happen. As the clock struck midnight, the door opened, and in danced 2 little men. They were dressed in rags and their feet were bare, but they cheerfully sat down and began to sew. Before dawn, they had finished their work and slipped out into the street. "So now we know," smiled the shoemaker. "What funny little men." "But did you notice, my dear, how old and torn their clothes were?" asked his wife. "Surely the least we can do to thank them is to make them some new trousers, shirts, and stockings, and you could make them some little shoes." A few nights later, the tiny presents were finished. The shoemaker and his wife laid them on the workbench and hid as before. Just after midnight, the little men reappeared. At the sight of the clothes waiting for them, they danced with happiness. "Now that we are such fine men, we need not come to work again." They sang and they skipped out of the shop, never to return. The shoemaker and his wife were happy and wealthy for the rest of their days, but they never forgot the 2 little elves who gave them a helping hand.